might, they pull from the internet. So like we're hoping that like our conversations around AI and stuff like that, and around other things too, would add to that data. But I don't know exactly how that works because it's video. I mean, we are making written transcripts, so I'm not sure how like actually that will work. So and then so we're also planning to like make a web page specific to Thinky Tank, where we would embed the live stream and then have the archive and then have information on how to join and da. So like one thing that we're gonna give people an option for, if like you don't want, like you want to join the Thinky Tank in the session, but you don't necessarily want to be, I don't know, like your identity to be known, you can use like an avatar, or you can even use kind of, some cool voice modifier or something. So just know that that's an option too, if you don't want. Yeah. And I don't know, Orion, if you've met Nikki before, or Dr. Bruhaha is their rev school name.
Where's the card?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
That was really cute.
That Nikki's reaction was so good.
I wasn't expecting that.
We're streaming, it works. Do y'all see the little thing at the top of your Zoom?
Yeah.
Where it says custom live streaming service, and then you can click it and click a link, and it'll pop up. It might start a lot of feedback if it does weird things to your speakers, but we can all hold tight for the danger. And
I'm gonna maybe I'll mute this speaker. I want to see what it looks like.
yeah, it's there. Yeah. Does it show up for y'all too?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet.
I just opened it up. And then I saw myself not mirrored, and it was weird. I had to stop looking.
Yeah. Myself
Why
not
is that
mirrored.
so weird to our brains to see ourselves unmirrored?
Oh my God, so it makes me feel lopsided, actually. Like
Mhm.
I want to move my head. Here. I'm like, my head is too lopsided or to the right or something. But we're live. Oh my God, we are live. Woo! First live session. Thank you, David, for setting it up. Woo.
Yeah.
You got us on the air before H-Chun could.
I know what happened. I got home Sunday night right at 8 p.m. Central and was like, perfect. And then there was nothing streaming.
Oh no.
Or there was something streaming. It just was very much not TFT.
Yeah, I think there's so because of the Hillary storm, Hillary or whatever, the Hurricane Hillary, the tropical storm that that came through. So like K-Chung shut down. I guess Mocha also shut down, which K-Chung is broadcasting at. So they were like, oh, maybe we should shut down too. So that's why. But Radiant sent an email that day, but Charlotte didn't seem to get it either. So sorry.
Yeah, I got it, but it seemed like it had a small addressee list.
How was the hurricane? Was it crazy or was it normal?
How about for you? It wasn't for me. I mean, I live in Culver City, and this part of Culver City that feels like it always kind of gets missed or something, sometimes with rain or something, which I mean, it's good for me, but it was just kind of heavy rain where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm in Hollywood, and it was a heavy rain. There's I can see 3 palm trees from my couch, and I watched them, and they were never leaning heavily against 70-mile-per-hour winds or anything. So
that's good.
That's a good gauge. Your palm tree friends. Okay, so let's I guess we'll start the meeting since we're the pressure of the live stream. Okay, let's start with highs and lows. So highs and lows of the week. And anyone can start and then just pass it to someone.
Can't think of a low. My high for the week is that I crocheted this and I finished it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And it's like a cotton bamboo blend, so it like has a really nice drape and weight, and so that's
so good.
it does have a little bit too much side boob, so I might put another layer of edging on it. But so the low for the week, maybe I could have gotten more sleep. I can popcorn to Nikki.
Sure. I'll start with the low, which is that not feeling great today. I've been kind of sick all summer. And I just have like random days where I'm just sick. But high is that I had a couple of really cool or like really good days at work, and I got asked to do some extra work of the kind that I like to do. So that's cool. I will popcorn to David.
Thanks, Nikki. I also have not been sleeping as much as I like to this week. Today was the low of that. I was driving home from work and I'm just like, I'm so fucking tired. I'm so tired. I feel terrible. I'm so tired. And then I took a nap and here we are. And things are maybe, I think, a little bit better. I think a bit better than that, but it was just a little baby nap. And maybe the high, I really like the there's a movie by David Cronenberg from a year or two ago called Crimes of the Future that I really like. And sometimes I remember it and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I really like that movie. Let me watch it. And so I did that the other day. And I just felt so good, and it did the thing that I really like, which is just like being chill, but also being really interesting and like strange world building, near future sci-fi stuff, lots to do with bodies, and also the movie's just super chill. So I watched it and thought about people that I love and would like to watch movies with, and that was a nice moment. I'll type the name of it in the chat. Oh, thanks, Orion.
There's also a 1970 film by Cronenberg with the same name, so disambiguation is necessary.
Oh, Crimes of the Future, 2002. Popcorn and Tangler.
Like, is the two Crimes of the Future both by Cronenberg? Are they of the same thing? No, totally different.
Just a good, too good a name to
That's how I want to be an artist. Like, damn, that name is awesome.
I'm just gonna use it again for this totally other thing.
Oh, and I like listen, I like ate up some of those links that you sent last week or the week before, Orion, and so that podcast has been like in my mind and in my ears all week, and that was awesome.
Great.
Yeah. Kind of like Crimes of the Past.
Was that the name of the podcast?
No.
Oh.
It was just a bit.
I want to listen to that. Yeah, I have that flagged on your links. We should. I was thinking also about the TFT reader. Anyways, okay, but we can get to that. I think I put it in the agenda, maybe. Okay, my highs and lows is it just came back like a couple hours ago from convocation. And that's always exciting. This is centered on disability. I mean, there's a speaker, Tony Saya, I think is her name. She's really good. So that's always exciting. School is fun. Like, I'm always like, oh, school. I'm like, oh yeah, I love school. And then I'm like, oh my god, first day of school, it's so fun. So that's exciting. But I'm totally not prepared. I've been like so like debauchery or something. Like I just like watch Suits, like marathon watching Suits. Wait, Nikki, do you know what Suits is? You're laughing. So you fucking know. I got fucking Dan to start watching it. And so now,
isn't that the show Meghan Markle was on?
Yes. Yeah. I watched it when it first came out in like 2010 or 2011. And then yeah, they have it on Netflix. So I'm like rewatching the whole thing. It's like 9 seasons. So I've been just like doing that, and like smoking weed and just like not working on my syllabus at all. Just like wanting to just not do anything. So I'm a little bit nervous about that because first class is Monday, and I'm revising my syllabus, my sculpture new genres 1 class. I don't really know how I'm going to do it. I'm just trusting that it's going to come. It's going to come soon. But that's just like, yeah, my low, because it's stress. It's a little stressful, but I'm still excited. Yeah. Okay, so updates and announcements. Okay, so this is the last TFT on this day and time. And then I know that we settled on Tuesday, 5 to 7. But then I was like thinking, I was like, because 9, when you sent that email, 9 texted me and was like, oh, the cool shit's happening at TFT. And then because like I know 9 works on Tuesdays, they work in a gallery, so it's like gallery out like work days. And so I was like, oh yeah, why if we go to every other day, maybe it should alternate with Rev School, which is Mondays 5 to 7, and then it will just alternate back and forth, so people in Rev School can also go to TFT since it's the same day. So I wanted to wondered if that, and I don't think that was a conflict from everyone's availability. Is that
What is the?
Monday 5 to 7?
It's fine for me.
Yeah. Okay. I know Nikki, it's always like your schedule, but but at least it's the same day as Rev School, so it's not. I don't know. It's more compacted.
Monday is like my normal day off, but lately it hasn't been my day off, so just I have no idea.
Okay, so I'll also put that in the email for TFT email to make sure that it's okay. So if that's the case, and I was going to, so that means that we wouldn't meet for 2 weeks, I guess, if we changed it to Monday. And so then we'll go to the original every other week. Does that sound okay? Okay. So the next meeting will be Monday the 4th, which is also Labor Day. So I don't know. I whenever there's a holiday and Rev School falls in it, I'm like, oh, it's a fucking holiday. But then I just like do it anyways. And if people don't come, they don't come. I don't know. So that's that. And then I was gonna start working on like a layout for the TFT webpage, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. The other thing, I know I mentioned it in this group, but I also mentioned in Rev School about like that Sony. Did I mention the Sony grant to you all? There's like a Sony. It's like this grant that Synth, Reframers partner Synth, sent me, and it's through Sony, and they offer like these faculty grants, and one is like a faculty innovation, and it's for like $100,000. And so I talked to Rev School about applying, and I guess it would have to go under me because you had to be attached. You had to be like a full-time faculty attached to like an institution. But it's due like September 15th, and I think that's not enough time. But they got me thinking about hiring a grant writer for a few, like, yeah, and it's because we have some money, and I was thinking like maybe if it's not for this one, but maybe in the future it might benefit us in the project to hire a grant writer to do that. So that's something I just wanted to mention. Any other updates and announcements?
Sorry, go ahead.
There you go.
I was just gonna say there's always like public art grants here in New York, if anyone ever wanted to come to New York and do a project.
That would be fun.
I have an update about some physical stuff I'm trying to make. I ordered some electronics components to try to make like a ripple tank that I can, and like figuring out a way to project it on a wall by with reflected light. And I just wanted to give to show this video of there's really cool stuff. Like of a a key sort of proof of concept inspiration video from it. Oh, this is YouTube within YouTube now. This is like this is the slow motion of this ripple tank that Ted Kinsman made on this YouTube. So that's a drop of water going to the surface, and then with 3 LEDs like in a triangle around it, this is what the ripples look like on camera. And so like I'm imagining, generating ripples from the edges of a tank and changing the frequencies of them, and maybe also changing the colors of the light on them in tune with the frequencies in some way. But so this was my inspiration for that project. And
Wait, the ripples are made through frequency, like sound?
no, I'm thinking of like I'm gonna get little electric motors that like tap on the edge of a tank of water at a rate that I can control, and then I'm also going to be shining light on them to make those cool like color lines, and I think I'll be able to make it like reflect and then project onto a wall, but we'll see. But oh yeah, but like since I can control the color of the lights as well, like changing the color of the light somehow in sync with the frequency of the ripples. So like, if there's red here and blue here, like there are more ripples from one side than from the other. I don't know. Well, it's a bit far ahead, but I've been really inspired just by the illustrations in the Barad book and thinking about what those might have to show us. So I'm having a nice time experimenting.
It's so exciting. Will you keep us updated on like all the
Of course.
Yeah, it'll be neat to be able to like interact with and test out and just have curiosities about what diffraction might look like, and then be able to see what diffraction might look like. And that it makes me wonder, especially thinking about the colors and like how those colors can interact with 2 different sources or something, and what it means then when there is superposition. Curious.
and also the reflecting aspect, because there's like what's happening in the tank, and then that being reflected, or that is producing so there's like one, I mean, just in a simplified way of how I'm imagining it, there's like a representation also, but then it like maybe it questions that too, because then I think it would start, because the focus is on like the wave patterns. I think I might start thinking about light waves in the production of the projected image of the thing. So then I don't know, that's kind of a cool way to like get me or the viewer or the participant to kind of like think about projection differently. I think, I don't know, like as like waves too, if it's like kind of like projecting the ripples or something. I don't know, something about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking about getting mist into the space so that you can see the beams of light as they're bouncing around as well. And on the other hand, I've also been thinking about like if I were to map like a range of ripple frequencies to the color spectrum, like that would be relative but quite arbitrary. And so like in terms like thinking about like if you like thinking about the light waves and the color waves, like maybe I can find some math that like that does properly map between a between a ripple frequency and a color, but it sounds a bit a little bit of a stretch to me. But I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I also downloaded a book about optics from like a free optics textbook from Brigham Young University. It's a little over my head, but I'm gonna see what it's about physical optics too, not just geometric optics. So.
I mean, we can also add it to our reading
list,
and we can read some of it together too. I'd be very interested in that.
I'll post a link. I mean, it's optics.byu.edu, so not recommend.
I love that you're like making things material. I have like because you've presented a lot of like the deck and then the cube, and like the way it seems like one way you work is through material engagement or something, and that's like something that I'm trying to be better at, because I tend to be hyper conceptual, and I like it's all here, and which is why it's so hard for me to like think about the bay, like, oh, what's the steps of materializing the bay or something. But I really appreciate like how you like you're like working through it and with it through like a material engagement yeah, it's cool.
I don't usually do that too. Like I'm it's totally because of TFT that I'm doing any of this. Like including the cube. It's like it's a little bit of like, it's another dimension of material engagements where it's like, okay, if we're talking about this stuff, like I've gone from like just thinking about the stuff in my head and like having no contact about it to like actually cross-pollinating with people, and it's like let's go, let's make stuff. So thanks, I'm great. Okay.
Seems so like I would have assumed that's just how you work, because it just seems like, I don't know, seamless or something.
Well, we can
And also watching you crochet and like and then seeing you with your new crochet things.
It's also because I'm unemployed. Like I have all of my when I have a job, all of my energy for like for materializing things goes into my paid work, and now I get to use it for things that actually I'm interested in. So this is great.
Yay. I think that's all on this list. Okay, thanks for the notes, David. I guess I did want to just say one thing before we get into the tiny house stuff, and then we're going to hopefully, I don't know if we'll finish the broad chapter, but I also have an idea for next thing we should do. But I just wanted to like also just mention, like the conversation that we had last week after me having dinner with Mashinka, and like Mashinka's suggestion of like broadening like the reason, like what we're doing is not just base centered or something. Like, so I just want to say that I think we should continue that conversation. Because like the more I think about it, I mean, I still love saying stuff like that's so bay, or like we're being so bay. But I also lean more towards like, yeah, making it more like a thinky feely tank. And so like how I'm thinking, like I am imagining now, like, oh, maybe we're coming up with, I don't even know what the word to use. I don't want to use like criteria, or maybe it is criteria in which we gauge like art science collabs of any sort or something. And then like we come up with like principles or something, guidelines that like a diffracted apparatus that we're passing projects through, and maybe and then so that people can bring projects to pass it through the thinky feely tank. And then what we're doing is setting up the details of that apparatus. And then bay could be one of those things. But... Okay. There's nothing else for check-ins. Also, this is also another thing that we talked about. It's not on the agenda. But sometimes I think about it, like I also don't have to be the person who's the facilitator. I mean, this is like going back to actually, this is going back to one of our earlier TFTs when we tried out the having the different roles, which then was like we tried it out, but then kind of dropped it. I just want to also mention that too, that like the way in which it's being kind of facilitated now or structured doesn't have to be the way it is. I think I like what is it? I compulsively admin, it's like it's almost like a compulsion. So I'll do it, but I also don't have to be this person. So I just want to open that up too, and also open up again, like if we wanted to go back to the roles or playing with different roles or playing with different people, facilitating or not. Okay. If there's no other updates, announcements, then I guess we'll go to tiny health.
Can we sit with those last two things just for a beat? I don't know if that'll bring anything more up, but I at least want to give it a beat.
I mean, for me, it raises the question, if you will be a different person, if you're not the one admitting the meeting, like what person or role will you be bringing?
My God, it seems like a simple question. And I was gonna be like, oh, I'm just like a member. And then all of a sudden it got complicated. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that who I'm like, wait, who am I? And then I'm like, oh my God, I don't know who I am outside of admin. But the hope is like, yeah, like, oh God, but then that also steps with a hierarchy. If I'm saying like, oh, I want to be a member, then why am I not a member if I'm doing admin roles? Because that also has some kind of like weird ontological like split that I'm doing, you know. So that's actually very complicated. It's a very complex question.
I know.
I think it's just mostly I get tripped up about power. I get tripped up about power and like not and taking up space, not knowing how much space I take up. Am I taking too much space? Is my space taking up like not giving space to other people? You know, Am I being too like authoritative? Like all those things are the main things when I say stuff like this because I don't know. So I guess I was honestly ideally, but like. Yeah, I don't know. I just like want to be able to be like have the power dynamics, be able to be part of the discussion when they come. Yeah, I think that's.
I was just thinking about how it's funny that like I'm so used to you being in that facilitator position. And like how my view of our relationship changes if you're not in that position, and like I don't know, and like the times where it's been like a more equal footing, and yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of #poly problems in my life this summer, and so I'm just like thinking about the nature of like how different relationships exist in like ways we're not used to. So
It comes up again. The glorious application.
I will be proposing readings from this book of feminist science studies.
Jesus Christ.
It's pretty thin. It's from Duke, of course, who publishes all the hot takes. Because it's, let's see, I was going to try to turn off the blur just so you can see the cover, but it's called Undoing Monogamy, the Politics of Science and the Possibilities of Biology. And one of, and like the thing that there's a lot about non-monogamy and poly stuff and like nature, culture, like stuff, and even like the inherent plasticity of humanity and the ways that those of people and the ways that can be celebrated and it can be exploited. But the really unforgettable thing about it is the author Angela Willey goes into, it doesn't, an ethnological study of scientists who are working on oxytocin studies with voles. And it's like proving that oxytocin is like the monogamy hormone or something. And like it's widely accepted. Like I was listening to Hospicing Modernity the other week, and she doesn't cite this research, but she like names oxytocin as like the thing that's into pair bonding, and like the vole-based research that says that oxytocin is for pair bonding is such bullshit. Like they take two female voles and a male vole, they put them into like a 3-chambered box with doors between them. They like chain up the female voles by the neck to a corner of the cage, and then they let the male vole go into the middle cage, and the male vole can go freely back and forth between the two things. And like they're saying that, and like no one in the research has actually looked into the tanks. They just like had a video with like blurs of the thing and like counting how much time the male is spending in one or the other chamber of it. And so Angela Willey goes and looks and sees what the voles are doing, and like the male vole is just trying to help the other voles get the fuck out of this horrendous situation. And like there's no pair bonding going on. It's pure like just in solidarity or something. And then also, and I think to get back to the plasticity bit, she also sort of names how the whole point of this research is like to find like treatment for autism, and like can you make autistic kids more normal by like giving them oxytocin, and like just how like the whole like it's this and Barada, like these two like really mind reshaping works of science studies. So I will look for a good reading to put into the reader.
Yeah, could you put that title and the author again in the chat? So are you saying that like the science from that study that you shared with us, that the scientists who didn't like really care about what was actually happening was using the back and forth to make a claim that oxytocins are like is pair bonding? Is that?
Yeah, I'm a little fuzzy on the specifics of like what, like, it's like the oxytocin may have made the male like 5 percentage points more likely to stay in one cage longer than the other, but like their threshold is like 60% to call it a pair bond or something. And then and the researchers are just looking at a video from overhead of like these like low quality video, and like just counting how like the amount of time that there are two blobs in one box, basically.
And so they're like the male or whether the free moving blob is like spending more time on this one, so therefore it must have something like that.
They've bonded for life. Yeah.
Oh my God, this is like so like disturbing. Yeah. Like that's like actual like science data that they're using.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
Why did I bring that up?
Oh, Nikki.
Polytonics. Yeah. That's right.
Maybe we need to get more oxytocins.
There's sorry, this might be like really off topic now, but I'm a huge nerd and I watch a lot Dimension 20, which is a D&D TV show, live play thing. And the current season it takes place inside someone's brain. And all the characters are like people who live in the brain, who like have these different functions within the brain. And one of the characters runs like basically like a speakeasy, and he like gives out like oxytocin and stuff.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. Someone made that campaign or made that like,
yeah,
that's amazing.
That's really good.
Oh God, I want that too. Wait, what podcast is it?
It's Dimension 20. It's a podcast and it's also a TV show.
Oh, is it shortened to D20? Or is that something?
Maybe.
No, it's just called Dimension.
Isn't it like a Disney conference called D20 or something? What is the Disney? There's like a Disney conference with a D and a 2-digit number. I don't know.
Probably. Conflating Disney with D&D.
I entangle what you bring up about reframing what we're doing in these TFTs, or what we could be doing in these TFTs. I think it's kind of tasty that like that alternative framing that you proposed. And to me, it relates in some ways to this question about facilitatorness, and like, I don't know, I see a lot of potential for structure to emerge in a more emergent way than a like think it and make it happen way, where if that's a direction that we choose to go in, then it seems like kind of facilitator or like somebody's role in holding a meeting together and directing where the meeting goes could kind of naturally emerge from who is coming forward with a project, or how a project that we are kind of doing some good diffraction people holding with, how what that project kind of asks for or could use from the group. I think there's still like a wonder of like kind of who holds the space beyond that. I really like how you hold this space. I think it's worked really well for us, or it's worked really well for me. And anyway, that's a thought.
I love that. And also I was thinking before when you were like, oh, can we have like a minute? Like that to me is like a facilitation thing. And you've done that multiple times, you know, and that's because and it's like, and then it's because like you're bringing like yourself and you're like saying the things that you actually, you know, would find helpful, which ends up being like helpful for a lot of people. And I love that because it's like, I love that because it's like as you said, it's like emerging. It's like emergent instead of being like, okay, you are the, you know, the vibes person, and it's kind of and it's like how I just really love that. And that's also an area in which, like when you said the like, can we have a moment of, you know, like I was like, oh shit, because that's like where I'm so bad at that shit, like so bad. And so it's really like a moment of kind of like co-facilitating or something.
There's something like I remember in the conversations that we were having that were being had in the Thinky Feely tank maybe 2 or 3 months ago, when we were really thinking about like different roles and stuff. There was like my attraction to that was in there being kind of clarity or routine or ritual to how we do it. And it maybe, I don't know how y'all feel about this, but like most of our ritual and routine has mostly been based in just who it is showing up. Like it's a lot of it might lean on like the familiarity of us coming in, and so I don't feel like that's being disrupted now or today. And also I'm like I don't know, maybe it makes sense in a certain way that the conversation comes back up. And also, Nikki, you're with us today when we've had like a little chunk of time where I don't remember actually exactly how the folk showing up has been, but there's some robustness or something that like in clarity or in a ritual or in something that we turn to rather than turning to what we're familiar with. Because then whenever the folks who show up are different or something like that, then there's fear in me about it changing, right? We don't have the same people carrying it, and so then the space changes, and that's not a bad thing. And I don't know, that kind of sprawled off.
Also, I totally forgot about the fucking ritual. Wait, where were we supposed to be? Orion did it that one time and then just, like forgot about it. That had that in. Is that what you're talking about, David? Or are you talking about like the ritual of having roles and like?
I wasn't talking about that specifically, and that's an example of what it could be, like of what a ritual or the ritual or part of the ritual could be.
Well, as the ritualist, can we welcome Charlotte?
Yeah, awesome. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
One thing that sometimes when people join after the start, like we don't invite them to share their highs and lows for the week, and or never have we, and it's like is because that phase of the meeting is like is your sharing your highs and lows like you're but Charlotte won't have heard any of our highs and lows, so it's like imbalanced. So I don't know whether
I'm so glad you're bringing that up because I have that question sometimes. Oh wait, also I did not mean to raise my hand. That was AI. Sure.
You guys could just fill me in on what you're discussing. Did you discuss broad already? No?
No, we just did
Okay.
sharing highs and lows and then the updates and announcements.
Okay,
And we were gonna after the updates announcements, then we're gonna go in tiny health. So it's great that you're here.
okay.
And then the updates and announcements they're in the here. Let me
In the
share.
Google Doc agenda?
Yeah.
Okay,
Here's the link again. But then we added some things which I think led to this conversation that we're having now. So one things that we're not on. Okay, one thing is that we're gonna move the meetings to Mondays 5 to 7 instead of Tuesdays 5 to 7 because then it alternates with Rev School. And this came from 9 mentioning how like TFT's so cool, but they can't make it because they work on Tuesday. So I was like, oh yeah, we should just like alternate with Rev School. And then I think it's just easier for people who go to both. And if does that work for you, Charlotte? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. And then I'm just gonna highlight this so that I remember. And then the other things are webpage. Oh, Orion shared about like a project they're working on, and which sounds really cool. If you wanted to share again, you can. Happy to hear it again.
I see something cool about a ripple tank.
Yeah, the video is the cool part so far. I'm trying to recreate that and have it, instead of being videoed, have it like bounce off of the water onto the wall. And,
Oh, wow.
and we'll see how feasible that actually is in practice. But I've got enough proof of concept that like something will be reflected onto the wall. But whether it's going to be as vibrant as what's in that video, and the video is the link, goes straight to the moment that I shared. So you don't have to watch 11 minutes of this guy talking about how he set up the tank, which is kind of interesting. Oh no, the other thing he talks about though is how like the classic physics textbook images of all of these like physical effects like diffraction
Mhm.
were taken are like photographs by Bernice Abbott. Like her, she, in addition to doing great sort of like people photography, she also did this amazing physics photography.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. I have to look into Bernice Abbott.
And most recently, we were kind of in Tangler brought back up discussion about facilitating and what the kind of framing of Thinky Feely Tank is relative to Bay and relative to other projects. I heard you say in Tangler using Thinky Feely Tank to be a bit of a diffractive apparatus for science art kind of projects. Is that accurate to what you said?
Unless like Bay centered maybe, or for me it would be, but then like Orion is gonna maybe talk more about like this new project or their cube or like or divination deck or and as a way to kind of open it up but also make it useful for people's individual projects they want to bring to the group.
Okay.
David, with the last thing that you said about the rules and the ritual, did you say that you like the ritual? Wait, that you like? Okay. A ritual being something that's like a repeated, what is the definition of a ritual? Like something that's like repeated. Wait, I don't even know if that's like true. It has to be repeated, but
It's a ritual is a spatiotemporal container for shared attention and intention.
oh shit! So the Thinky Feely Tank could be a ritual?
It is a ritual. Like whether we're paying enough attention to the ritual infrastructure is the real question.
And then would that also be emergent too, David? Like thinking about like the rituals that we practice here?
For me, there's security, and if like imagining going onto the Thinky Tank website and there being something that we all expect from each other and people who haven't been here before expect from coming in. There's a way we could probably describe the vibe or like the content, but like the form of it and how it's done. Like there's what I lean on whenever I come in, I feel like is I lean on my relationships with y'all. And that's not a bad, that's not that's just how it is. It makes things and if I come in and I like expect that we do, I don't know, like there's a certain way that this diffractive apparatus does its diffraction, then that's I think that's what I was getting at with ritual. Not a, it's I don't know, it's so kind of vague, and I don't know why this conversation keeps on being kind of hard to have. I feel like whenever we had it or when I was engaging with it a few months ago, it's still kind of tricky to like know where to land.
Yeah. Maybe it's just about like put like your audio on how you describe ritual. This is like spatial temporal, like intentional
with a purpose. I forgot about the purpose part, which is crucial.
Yeah, with a purpose, it's intentional. And maybe, and then going with, and then kind of like merging that with like David's kind of like emergence thing. And so maybe it's like enough or whatever that we just say these things and we kind of like sit in them and like, and then because they become something that maybe we all think about as we continue to enter, and then they become like intentional or purposeful or something.
Space for emergence is also is a good definition for a ritual, yes. And I think figuring out how much structure we put into the space is also emergent. So,
and I'm down for that emergent, uncertain, unclear road journey with you all.
And Tangler, and you bringing up the question about facilitating, is there a is that coming from a mark, like a feeling mark or something that could use some of this complex stuff, or is it coming from kind of remembering it, or you know what I mean?
What was the last one?
Sometimes I bring things up because they're on my mind, and sometimes I bring things up because like there's a particular weight to them.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Let me think. I mean, I don't think anything was happening necessarily in the moment when I said that made me all of a sudden feel some funny about me facilitating, or was there? I don't think there wasn't. I think it was more me carrying that, because that's something that like I think about, and so I think in that moment, and sometimes I was like, oh damn, I was like, oh damn, I'm facilitating this meeting, you know, like and all of a sudden it feels like you know, I'm like saying what's next, and then I feel, then it starts making me nervous, and then I think it came from that. But does this feel complete, people?
I'm ready to talk about tiny health.
All right, let's do it. Tiny health. Here we are. Okay. Charlotte, do you have anything you want?
My last correspondence with them was a confirmation that they would supply the FASTQ data for no additional charge.
Sweet.
And I gave them a sense that it would take a little time for us to convene as a group and vote. So I can't remember what day we said we'd get together, and we're going to propose to Rev School on August 28th. So that's in 5 days. Will Rev School decide that day? Will we know for sure?
I think so. We just revisited the process for doing it in Rev School. So that it's now like a 2-week process. So the first presentation happens in Rev School. And then, but oftentimes, like a lot of people in Rev School can't make it. So then we decided to then also send a DM, because there's like a Rev School DM, and then also an email. Put the proposal and say like it was passed in Rev School, and then giving people a chance to also feel like if someone has a bodily no, they can say it. So it goes then to the email and then also to the Instagram group. And then this is when the meetings were every week. So maybe it's a little different now. I think people are fine with it still being 2 weeks, as long as like the people who are not may have a week to respond. And then if there's no bodily no's, then it passes. So that's kind of the process. And if there are bodily no's, then like people, can share what the feelings were, and then it also gives the proposer an opportunity to adjust the proposal,
Mhm.
and then represent it.
Okay. I just want to make sure we keep Tiny Health with us and make sure we get that FASTQ data and that we're organized, coordinate with them about ordering the tests to ensure that we get the data. I feel like Rev School is going to help us. I'm just counting on a yes. I know there's a possibility somebody will say no, but
I also have a feeling they'll say yes. And I think right now we have to decide like how, if we want to do the membership thing or if we want to do the individual kits, and see which one fits us right now.
yeah.
So like obviously everyone here wants to test, right? So there's 5 of us here, and then Clara also wanted to test, or 9, so that's 6. I haven't yet. Oh no, I did. Nikki, you heard about it because I put it in Rev School, right? Okay. So I could put it again in the Rev School DM to see if anyone else, but I did put it, and that's how Nikki learned about it. So right now we have 6. I feel like there's other Rev Schools who want in on this, but if we do 6, okay, here's the, let me, okay, actually I'm gonna share my screen so we can do this calculation together. The notes. Okay, so let me just make this a little bigger. Okay. So they offered us, right, Charlotte, the family bundle. So it's usually like 30, I don't know, $35 more or something.
$199 a kit.
Okay, so they're giving us this thing, but we can also do this. But I think it only benefits if we have a certain amount, like we have a large group, and I haven't done the calculations. So this membership would be like we pay a year, and then each kit is then $149, which is it's not that much of a discount. It's like $15.
Is there another benefit to being a member? Like what? I don't know. The long-term benefit would be that they retain our data on some kind of platform for a couple of years if we keep paying. And
I haven't really gone through in depth in this website, but
two free consults per year with in-house doctors and microbiologists.
Oh. I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious what this entails.
I mean, we could, yeah, if it's open-ended, we could have them come to one of our meetings and consult with us there.
Is this something we think that we should ask them about?
Yeah.
Okay. I was under the, oh, sorry.
I think the break even for the membership is 13 people.
Oh.
like $200 divided by 15. So I think that's the number. So just to keep that in mind, but
I'm gonna write this down. So 13. What I was gonna say was I thought just from talking to you, Charlotte, and hearing just like reading the email exchanges, it sounded like the membership is for people who want to get periodic tests, right? Yeah, okay.
I inferred that as well. I inferred that because, you know, this is a service that appeals to people who are trying to transform their health and their baby's health, and they might want to track their progress and have the ability to measure changes in the microbiome based on like dietary adjustments and supplements and so forth. That's what I took it to mean.
Yeah. Is this thing a deal thing for people? Like, for example, if like we don't get 13 people, but like we really want these consulting things. No, David, no.
I mean, I'm doing okay right now, but there was a time when I was so sick and I would have spoken to any doctor I could get my hands on to gain any insight I could to try to help myself. And I'm not in that position today. I have some other concerns, but they aren't with my gut so much. So
and I think the idea that we could consult them on anything having to do with microbiome genetics is a little bit of a fantasy. Like it's conceivable, but not guaranteed. So I think there could be other ways for us to get that kind of conversation if we wanted to.
I've always found it very hard to have like conceptual chats with doctors who are meant to sit down and tell me what to do. I've seen some like great immunologists, great gastroenterologists, and I sit down and try to talk to them about how to save my life. And it's just like I could be at a doc in the box, you know, having someone, well, why don't you go get some B vitamins from CVS? Or, well, we don't really know why people have allergies and we can't help people when they get older. You know, like just people with getting paid $250,000 a year with no answers for what seemed like the simplest questions that you'd come into their office to ask. Sorry if any doctors ever see this, I'm sorry, but that's just the kind of experience I was having for several years.
Dr. Bruchaha is here.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Also, doctors need to hear this shit too.
Yeah,
They do.
I was gonna say I'm with you on that. I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm not a real doctor.
Yeah. Not all
Okay.
doctors, right? Not all doctors, but
Most of them.
most.
Yeah. Okay. So the doctor is not a big thing. I also agree that we can probably find other people. I actually met someone on field who does robotics. I was like, great. Good place to meet some scientists. I met 2 already. One I unsuccessfully recruited, but this one looks potentially interested. So if we did the 164, and there's 6 of us right now, that would be $984. So
That's a chunk of change for ref school, isn't it?
but not really. You know, I was gonna say, oh yeah, that seems fine. I think the last time I looked at our books, which they are like, we use Open Collective, so all our things are public. was I think like 16,000. And we have another 10,000, I believe, I hope, that's still at Creative Capital. So I think we have a total of around $26,000 or $25,000. So I think, I don't know, I think it's, I mean, I would vote yes for it, so. I think it's very.
I'll be voting yes for it.
Yeah, we're gonna come to the meeting and
Vote for ourselves.
use the election.
Oh my God, yes, actually, please do that. It's so amazing.
So silly.
So silly. It's so good. Oh my gosh, you're just like. I also think like if rev schoolers hear that like we're moving on this, I feel like a lot of them will want to do it. So that could also, so it will increase the amount. But if we get 13 people, okay, how's this? How's this for a proposal? Like what we're proposing now is for 6 people. While also opening it up for rev schoolers and other TFT people. And then if we get 13, do you think we should move to this?
Yeah, if the cost is the same, why not?
Okay, so that would be, let me do this.
Because don't you think it means that each person who gets a kit would have a consultation with a microbiologist? No,
I don't think so, but
just the family
yeah,
or the group.
yeah. Among the 13 of us, we can share 2 consultations is how I would read that.
Oh, okay.
Same. Because I think, I mean, we can ask. I just think that like this is geared towards like a single person, right? The membership. Okay, let me see. Oh wait, it says your family's gut.
Yeah, so I think I could see in a consultation like it being like, okay, here's here are the 4 of us. Here's the 4 people in my family. Like what should we be doing for our weekly meal planning or something? That feels like the kind of thing that Tiny Health is angling for.
Look at that cute little baby. I
So
mean,
Hmm.
I guess the science is changing all the time. I don't know, and I used to try to keep up with it. I don't know in detail how each microbe influences my immune health. If they're able to talk about the microbes and like offer us even encyclopedic style information about each microbe, like who it is, what it does, how it influences our immune health, they might be the best source for that kind of information since they specialize in it.
mhm.
The other thing that occurs to me is that with the Plus membership, probably everyone's bundle kit, like everyone's kit ends up being connected to one account. So like anyone with access to the Tiny Plus membership can see everyone's gut microbiomes, which depending on people's privacy tolerance
Oh, okay.
could be a thing.
And so what will probably happen is we'll
Well,
get like it's through our fecal matter, right? So we'll have to like do the thing of like sending in our fecal matter, and then we get back is a bunch of data. And
yeah.
then will we need help reading the data? I mean, I guess they'll give us the consumer version. Mhm.
Yeah, because like there's the dashboard too. And so we need to confirm that like if they're sending us the whatever the FASTQ data, that like we also get access to that dashboard, but the dashboard is super polished. I remember Charlotte, whenever you sent out the link to that, I was like scrolling through the little tutorial of it, and there's so many, it is like polished and designed and communicative, synthesizing.
Yeah, synthesizing.
Yeah, they have to give us access to that.
The FASTQ stuff, they already told us it would be an extremely large file that they need to upload to the cloud to share. Insinuating it's too large to email as an attachment. And maybe they don't have a space on their platform to share files, so we would need to give them some place to share it to us.
Is anybody besides me really interested in their particular FASTQ data?
What does that mean?
It's the raw like ATGC data file for the genome of every bacterium that they find.
So it's like the DNA. It's like the DNA kind of breakdown.
It's the actual DNA code,
Huh.
which I have no informational use for. It's purely just to make sciencey art out of.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I have no idea how I would go about like interpreting that at all, but it seems cool.
There's
My
no charge.
It's just depending on. I'd be curious to know exactly how big it is, because like, there's a 2 gig, like Dropbox for free is like 2 gigabytes or something. Like if it's more than 2 gigabytes, then it starts to actually cost us money to receive it, even if we don't have to pay them.
Well, I was only interested in receiving mine because I thought somehow it would bolster Orion's project, and I wanted to share it for the sake of being diffractive. I don't know. You asked how private people may want to be with their dashboard data.
I see no reason to be private.
Yeah. Right now, I don't have anything to hide about my microbes, but in general, I do like medical privacy. I feel like in this case, I'm not making a big sacrifice in order to contribute to this group that I willingly attend.
Me too.
Okay.
God, I misplaced my vape and now it's freaking me out. Like,
Nikki Orion is interested in making sound or noise art, personifying, however you want to put it, this data.
Cool.
Last time they checked in with us on it.
Oh, cool. I'm just looking at this example that I found on the internet, and it's like A, and I'm just like, hi. Sounds like
Yeah, we could also just perform it.
my gut sounds like
My guts.
We could actually, in like a choral piece or something.
Oh,
This is also getting into your discussion that you wanted to have about data visualization in relation to the diffraction and conversation reading that we're doing. Which hopefully, I don't know, now it's 5:15. I don't know if we'll get to it, but it's in the agenda. But quickly, just what's going to be proposed on Rev School on Monday, which everyone's welcome to come to Rev School. It's also an open collective, so you can also just come and vote. It's like transfer it. It's actually the same Zoom, it's just like different day. So what is going to be proposed is right now for six kits, which total $984. And if more people are added and we hit 13, then we're going to switch into the membership because it costs the same. But if it's under 13, we'll just pay the regular family bundle. Yeah.
And
Cool.
with the will it be really like the back and forth between more people being interested and then that raising the budget and then that new budget getting like is
like, would that then have to be represented?
Good
question.
Maybe
Is that-
could there be something in the proposal that's like articulating like this is what we're thinking. I don't know how the ways that Rev School moderates and conducts discussion. Just how agile that adjustment could be.
I think it could be agile for sure. It's making me wonder if we should have a cutoff time of like, if you want to do this, you have to let us know by this time because we're putting it in.
Could the proposal be a proposal for a range of 984 to 2,100? I mean, also factoring in tax and shipping and whatnot. Like, I don't know how much that needs to be factored in, but proposing that range and
Yes.
seeing what the limit that gets, like what the cutoff limit would be, you know?
Oh my God, yes. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so we're going to propose a range. So proposed a range from 984 to 2,136. And that's what we're proposing. And then break down kind of like where those numbers come from. And then that would be the thing that we're asking for. And then we don't have to revisit or come back with another proposal if that number changes. That's such a good idea. Thank you for that. Yes.
One other sort of logistical issue. If we order them in bulk with the family plan, do they all get shipped together to one address, or can we give them different addresses to ship them to? And like, who handles those logistics? Is it us or them?
Good question. So these are questions that I don't know, Charlotte, if you want to continue corresponding with them, because I think you also had that question about the doctors too, or about if we ask more questions, maybe we could tack on that other question with the membership thing about like how, like, is the two consultants for the group, or how does that work? And then Orion's question of like, how
Can we ship them to different addresses?
would be
Yeah,
helpful
because
they
if
could-
we're not a family living under the same roof, okay. Yeah, let's write that down.
I'm noting that.
Oh, cool, thank you.
Trying to see where that is. Okay, questions for tiny health. Email address and sign states.
Is that everything for Tiny Health Convo?
We have a question about meeting with the doctors. Is,
Oh, that's right.
could they share more insight into those meetings? Would each person with a kit get a meeting, or is that just one meeting for the whole group? Does that take place over Zoom or in real life? Probably over Zoom.
And it does, the wording is 2 free consults per year with in-house doctor and microbiologist. Right, is that the same person? Or is there a doctor and a microbiologist, and the 2 free consultants are one of each? Like one with the in-house doctor, one with the microbiologist. The wording is confusing. Also, I found my vape. Yay.
Yay.
Also, vapes are evil. Ooh.
Yay.
I wish that was legal here.
Vapes are
Um,
illegal?
Marijuana is illegal.
Oh, this is a nicotine vape.
Oh,
Yeah, I pasted the questions that I noted from the conversation. I think that documents the ones that we were wanting to send over Tiny Health. And Charlotte, you have been the one corresponding. Is that still a comfortable role for you?
yeah, I think so. Until they shoo me away. I mean,
Thank
What do
you so
you-
much.
what do you think, Jennifer? Do you think it's best for me to continue?
Yeah, if it's
them?
okay with you. If it's okay
Yeah.
with you, yeah.
I do get nervous about bothering people too much when I haven't spent money with them yet, but
Yeah,
They're-
but we
they're
are,
just-
we are gonna spend money with them, it sounds like, some
Mhm.
capacity. Just trying to figure out what kind, but yeah, thank you for corresponding with them.
Thanks. Yeah, you could say we're in the process of approving budget for this, and we had a few more.
We have a
questions.
few more questions, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I like that.
Love it. Is Tiny Hills complete?
I feel good about this.
I'm excited. I kind of wish we could all smush our fecal matter together. Like have an individual and just smush them, like
Oh,
reminds me of,
Jennifer.
like Candace Lynn was collecting everyone's urine. We can just like collect everyone's shit. Just like have a giant vat of shit.
I had a
Anyways.
friend, we were in Boston and he was going to literally like a performance artist group exhibition or something. And he found a little Ziploc bag with some dog poo in it, and he picked it up and brought it into the exhibit with us to like pin it on his board. And I wound up getting a terrible staph infection in my eye. Like my eye was swollen shut and I couldn't open it, and I had to go to the doctor and I missed work. And so I'm not a big fan of just like playing with doo-doo, I find. Even
Oh my god, damn.
so, I don't know.
No,
Art with-
that's real.
Art with doo-doo. I guess some people get away with it, but it attacked me.
Oh god, I'm sorry that happened.
Doo-doo, please don't.
Also, I love doo-doo very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to find the shit emoji. It takes too long. Okay, here. Okay, so we're done. Tiny Health is complete. Awesome. Okay, so going on to broad. I do, how we're thinking about like, on the notes, I've been keeping track as best I can, like what people suggested for readings in the future. You know, like for example, I think Orion, you mentioned, oh, we can read the examples of the resource that L Parks gave in that resource list. We can read that, or you know, reading your the links in the podcast or the things that you shared. And then there's also the TFT reader. But then I was revisiting my notes for TFT1 recently, and then I was like, oh shit, this stuff is so good. So then I was like wondering if we can do our close reading, like the next close reading of the TFTs. Because there's so much in there. Like, for example, when Barad's talking about like, what do we mean by machine? And like I was like, oh yeah, that would be such a good discussion. I'm wondering if people would be into that after the Barad.
Drawing, yes.
Okay, cool. And then I was trying to figure out how to do that, because like how we're doing it here is like we're reading it through the text, like through each page. And I'm wondering, this is something we can think about in the next meetings. Like, is, for example, like we can actually watch the videos together. I mean, we can watch it before and after, but if we wanted to go through like how fine, fine detail do we want to get? So just something to think about.
The Vimeo's transcripts are searchable and like, so if you search for a word in the transcript, it'll take you, you can go jump to that point in the video. So we could certainly do that with a shared screen as we're doing that.
There's one way that's kind of, I feel like it's what we're doing now, but a less fine tooth, where if we each come into the discussion with however, it could be, it doesn't need to be one, it could be however many like things we want to like have as a discussion. It could still be us going through like chronologically, but could be more based on like not bigger chunks, but less fine-toothed. Like, I don't know, as I say that, that's actually not much different than what we've been doing. Never mind.
I really like the fine-tooth kind of page by page that we've been doing, because I feel like I do like I have my notes and I can talk about TFT, for example, or even the broad chapter through my notes, but there's something about like going through each page, because there's certain things that I might miss in my summary or something. And it might even be things that are not like directly like the content that's being like, especially with video or something. I don't know, like sometimes there's things in there that could be data or something, that things that we can talk about that are not like what people are saying or something sometimes. Which would be interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to should we get into this?
Sure. What page are we on?
We're on page 86, I believe. We started talking about representationalism. So I remember I said I really love that kind of like breakdown of representationalism as the belief that words, concept, ideas, and the like accurately reflect or mirror the things to which they refer. But I don't think we went through the reflexivity in parts. Also, Nikki, I can send a link to the PDF. We're reading the diffraction chapter.
Yes, I think I have it from the agenda.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, good job. Okay, great. Linked it.
I guess before we start, with keeping in mind the whole thing about using data and data visualization to generate forms and projects. I remember Orion saying he was concerned about having like a principled methodology of going. I think you used the word principled. Is that right? Or critical?
I'm trying to remember what, I'm not sure. Can you maybe finish what you were saying? Because I forgot.
For creating a project with the data that we have available to us from Tiny Health, you want to make sure that it's a critical or principled
This is the thing about details matter.
method of creation.
Specifics.
Details do matter. You might have said that as well. So when you said that, I was thinking that meant that we might be really taking what Barad is laying out and trying to generate form from it as methodically as possible if we're trying to be very principled or very critical. Is that what you meant? Are we using this reading of Barad as a template for how the creation of our project will be conducted? Is my question. Because that affects how I read it. What kind of content am I trying to get out of this?
For me, one of the things in TF2.1 that was most like sort of like tender, I think, was we'll have to look it up next time, but like something River said about like, you know, generally about like all of the foo-foo stuff that like just uses quantum as like a foundation for nonsense, and like and so I think having something that I wouldn't be embarrassed to show and discuss with River is definitely a goal for me. Like it is their book that like it's, you know, it's their book and their name that brought me to this thing in the first place. So like you know, so I'm reading this with that in mind. Yes.
Okay.
I love that. It kind of goes in what they said at the end, like, how can I be accountable to that, which I love. I also use Barad as like a apparatus as well. Like, can I pass this through River and would they be okay with it? and it is like, because I love Barad, so I want to be like accountable to that love. Love that. And also to go to the data visualization, Charlotte, that you're talking about, I think I do definitely think of it as representationalism sometimes, you know, which is like, you know, again, the belief that words, concept, ideas, and the like accurately reflect or mirror the things to which they refer. So for, you know, the example that I give, also, I'm not trying to poo-poo on the quantum physics dance. I've never seen it. I don't know what it is, but like, and this is my bias. Like, I hear that and I think representationalism, like it's like it's trying to represent this data that, and then if I get into like the fine details of this, you know, of the definition of representationalism, then I start talking through it, I start seeing my biases, for example, like is it actually mirroring? No, because it's a different form, you know, like a dance is a different materialized embodiment or form or engagement with maybe the same data that like a machine would use to then, I don't know, to something else. So I think that's like where I need to like question my own kind of biases. And then if I do that, then for me, it becomes about like, what is it doing? Like, what is it co-producing? Like, what subjects and objects is a quantum physics dance co-producing? And that if I don't think about it as like a representation of the quantum physics data that comes from CERN, and think of it as a diffractive, like I can start thinking about dance as also a diffractive apparatus, then that kind of shifts it for me. And so I think for me, I guess I would want the data, I would want to understand, or not understand, but like kind of when I see a data visualization, I guess I want it to offer a different way of worlding, or a different way of, or it's producing a different subject or than like the data being used in CERN to then do something else or something. And I think maybe it does. And yeah, I don't know. That's, yeah.
I think I understand what you're saying. I thought about data visualization in the architectural process. And basically, architects go out and collect data about a site, data from potential users, data based on size and cost, and then try to visualize that data in diagrams. And then there's the step beyond that, that's a little bit of alchemy, where that data has to turn into a highly functional, sensible building, hopefully with some aesthetic value. And the leap between the data to the data visualization to the actual building, it's an enormous leap, where the building becomes the ultimate subject, but it has to go through these other, we have to create or use the apparatus of data visualization, I guess you'd say, to even know how to begin
Yes.
generating a form. And then usually it's very hard to work backwards and show, if you've done your job right, I think it's hard to work backwards simplistically and show exactly where every diagram was applied. Like, hopefully you've synthesized everything so well that it works very fluidly and it's like a complete system within itself.
And you also gave like 2 examples of, maybe there's more in what you just said, but one of them that I didn't really think about was your first one, which is like taking data to make graphs and diagrams that make it more accessible.
Yeah.
So that's like, that's one way that I didn't think about it. And I think it's useful for sure.
It makes me want to jump to page 90. The very first thing on the second page of the table, like, phenomena are objective reference, accountability to marks on bodies, and taking account of differences that matter. Like, I think that can be done visually, that can be done in dance. Like, I don't feel forbidden by loyalty to Barad from visualizing data. And I think that sonifying data is the same, just with a different sense. And we can, like, if we're taking the observations of the phenomena and turning them into perceptual experiences is I think is a broad enough thing that we don't need to, that we can, like, feel free to see what we get out of processes of doing that.
Yeah, and also, like, as long as we don't think this is an accurate reflection of the data, we're like, this quantum physics dance is the actual mirror reflect, like, as long as we understand that it is not wholly, but it's like a thing in itself and not necessarily representing that, but it is through this kind of abstraction of it into this other form, is doing something. And if we focus on that kind of transition, Charlotte, that you're talking about, I think then we won't end up in the trap of like ignoring this particular fine detail, of like, so that it's not really about like, I mean, it is about like the final dance or whatever we want to call it, but it'll, I think, kind of like force us to also attend to that, the way it moves from this form to another form, and like what is happening in that, and like, yeah, and maybe that's like more significant in a Baradian sense. I'm just like reading the next paragraph, which I think we also read last week, but about the mirrors reflect and like to mirror something is provide an accurate image or representation that faithfully copies. And then at the, you know how there's like the, you know, and then they say like a scientific realist believes that scientific knowledge accurately reflects physical reality, whereas a strong social constructivist would argue that knowledge is more accurately understood as a reflection of culture rather than nature. I guess I'm like curious if people fall into either of those camps, or do you think that way? Because I think fall more into the latter. Like I tend to think things are like socially constructed or something, more discursive.
Mhm.
I guess scientific knowledge like changes all the time, right? So I don't know if I could say that it reflects physical reality. It's also funny to have like a paragraph on mirrors after we were just talking earlier about like seeing ourselves unreflected and how it's like doesn't seem like the accurate like view of us.
Oh my God, I love that. And also when you emphasize that last part about reflecting physical reality, I'm like, oh no, it produces the physical reality, or it's part of the production of our, you know, like our, how you said, like science that changes and all, you know, and like, not like it's reflecting what's happening physically, but it's actually co-producing what's happening at the same time or something, which is, I think, Barad's emphasis on the ethico-onto epistemology, that ethics, ontology, and epistemology are simultaneously co-produced. So like and the way that it's talked about, it feels very linear, you know, like this produces this comes first, and then we mirror this, and it's a copy of this, and that relies on a very linear kind of understanding of how things unfold or emerge. And I think one of the radical things is that, like, which is like was hard for me to wrap, like it's hard to kind of like, but like that, like things don't like that, the physical, this is where it gets tricky, because it's not like there isn't physical reality, or that it's like that all of this is like kind of emergent, right, and it's being shaped by each other.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find that passage, but I remember it. And it struck me as I was like, I don't see a scientific absolute and the world is like a social constructionist being, I guess, would you say mutually exclusive? Like some things are there do seem to be scientific absolutes, but then there also seems to be the social. Like Barad talks about the production of gender, and I'm not enough of an expert on the dialogue around gender to make a really confident point, but there are scientific absolutes, like can an organism produce a child or not, but that's independent and almost unrelated to the organism's conception of gender, right?
It depends a little bit on the organism.
Yeah. The human organism, I guess. Mammals.
Yeah, your organism was leaving room for all the fun, all the cool gender bending fish. But
True.
right after footnote 22 on page 86, where they say, oh no, a little bit after. So, some social scientists who were questioning this avowed scientific realism were unreflectively engaged in social realism, like just putting social over the so-called natural. And then on the next page, after footnote 23, like mainstream science studies ignoring crucial social factors and how, oh yeah, they continue to treat social variables such as gender as preformed categories of the social. They fail to attend to gender in the making. I guess we're already talking about this. It's, and I think were you here when I was talking about the Undoing Monogamy book, like the ways that you can set up a experiment to prove things about gendered bodies that aren't true. They're just like reflections of the social environment and the experimental setup itself, like the apparatus. It's almost like, I think one of the things I think is really compelling about this bit of this chapter is the way that it talks, like demonstrates that in the broad social world, in the broad scientific world, like the apparatuses do predetermine the answers so often, with the unreflexive application of scientific questions to these categories treated as preformed.
Okay. So yeah, this point that how science fails the study of certain socially constructed factors.
Thinking about that.
Laboratory practices.
I'm thinking about that, the audio on how you gave the example of the what kind of animal was it?
Vole.
Vole?
The
A vole looks a lot like a mouse.
Vole. Oh my God, I don't even know what a vole. I've never heard of a vole. I'm gonna have to look it up.
What
Just
does a
thinking
vole
about
do?
you sharing that experiment and thinking about that in the context of this, what we're reading right now, and being like, oh, what, like all the things that were like not, like were ignored or like not even like considered as a variable, or like, like the fact that they were chained, like that wasn't like part of it, and which then led to like a whole misreading of what was happening. And then also the assumptions of like the gendered animal, the gendered vole, and how it replicated like the human history of like, like the male is the one who's mobile and can like move around. The female vole is like chained, and it's just
yeah.
And that's a perfect example of how like sometimes the sciences don't attend to the gender in the making, and like how that experiment is like also a gender in the making experiment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll have to photocopy some of this. I'll share it in the next day or two. It's hard to know what to pick out. Like, I sent some people. I made a PDF of a few pages of these conclusions, and I think without the setup, it's a bit hard to know what's going on. But I'll work on it. Oh yeah. So okay, just one thing. I'm sorry. We barely talked about that. Oxytocin. Okay, that's it. The gendered story is undermined by the research itself. Hang on. Oxytocin is the maternal hormone associated with nurturance and gendered feminine. Thus, scientists understanding pair bonding behavior in females as both like a mother's bond with an infant and adaptive in service of that bond. So in this schema, female monogamy is mediated by functional mechanisms that support the reproduction of the nuclear family through nurturance. And male monogamy in this scientific framing is mediated by functional mechanisms that support the reproduction of the nuclear family through mate guarding. Yeah, jealousy and protection. And like you've set up the experiment so you can only reify that exact prejudice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yes. This is. I think I put Barad in the margin after this. Feminist science studies have had a lot to say about the imposition of these types of racially gendered narratives onto biology and the ways they misrepresent and or actually materialize the effects they purport to describe. So that's the root of it all.
Yeah. Thinking a lot about symbolic universes too, like how like it's basically like you said, like it reifies it, like it reifies someone's symbolic universe as unquestioned. It's just like it's making an experiment to substantiate one's symbolic universe, and then they can like be like, oh, see the facts. The facts point to this is true, and then yeah. It's so like shocking to me to think that like people in power who have access to all this like don't think about this stuff. So shocking sometimes.
But that's why we're here.
Yeah.
So if we, for example, like we, start talking about representationalism and reflexivity within kind of in relation to this text as we kind of move forward, do people feel like you all like kind of understand how Broad's talking about these things? So I do like, I love the part about like reflexivity aims to acknowledge a tripartite arrangement between objects, representations, and knowers that produce knowledge. And that like often like focusing attention narrowly on the relationship between objects and their representations, and therefore leaving out the knower. So that's something that like I imagine like we can kind of like carry with us or like as a tool, to like be like, oh wait, are we like focusing really on this, like are we overly focusing on the relationship between the objects and their representations? And like, and if that happens, maybe like you can like pause or something.
What page is that on?
Ooh, 86. Second paragraph, second full paragraph.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm looking forward to what we'll get. Maybe in part not clarified, but like from what gets proposed. And I'm assuming this would be whenever we pick this back up next TFT, but starting on page 88 when they're talking about performative rather than representationalist mode. And my proposal coming along with that is like wondering if next, like whenever we like for discussion today, like we get to what feels like a good place with what's discussed before then. And so then whenever we come into discussion next time, we can go into this transition on page 88 where they say, I turn my attention next and then we'll go there. And yeah, how does that feel to y'all?
Well, are we
So
gonna,
like,
are we trying to do TFT1 in the next meeting?
or how I understood what David said, saying like, for the remainder of this meeting, can we like get, kind of like get through this part so that the next meeting we can then start with the performative, right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that in 3 minutes, then so I think that up until that performative part, I think it's a lot about like just like about reflexivity, right? And like this kind of like hierarchizing. Oh my god. Anyways, putting one underneath the other. So like, you know, like which I do, you know, like the scientific under the social, or the social under the scientific, and like how really hard it is to do the diffractive instead of one under the other. That's also what I'm getting from this section too. Also, like on the page at bottom of 87, that last paragraph, reflexivity is based on the belief that practices of representing have no effect on the objects of investigation. I think that's like important too.
Yeah.
Like our practices of naming, of categorizing, of actually affects the thing. And it's not like some kind of innocent like reflection of what is true or something. And he wrote about Hito. Do you want to say anything about that?
I can't remember what the writing was, but I remember thinking about the concept of like understanding things as being next to each other and understanding them in that sort of like, if you have to like understand things in a spatial relation to each other instead of a hierarchy, it's like a next to-ness. But that's as far as my brain is going.
Is that a rhizome? For some reason I thought about rhizomes when you were talking. That's different, right?
What do you mean?
I heard Edgar talked about rhizomes too, or has, but there's also, isn't rhizomes like some kind of structural, yeah, like more,
it is like lateral, yeah.
this lateral, yes. Oh, it's 6. Anything else before about these pages? It's on 88, David. That
Yeah.
I really
Okay.
like this line, this kind of straightforward line, reflexivity does nothing more than mirroring.
Yeah, and representation raised to the 9th, this is on 88, 9th power does not disrupt the geometry that holds objects and subjects at a distance as the very condition for knowledge's possibility. So it's not like when that statement sounds like it's like a interest in like a systems kind of analysis or a systems change, rather than like bouncing things off or like trying to, you know, place
From-
things with the existing system, right? Yeah.
From Newtonian physics to quantum physics.
Because in Newtonian physics, we don't need anything. All we need to do is reflect whatever reality is already real. I see.
Is that right? Did an apple fall on my head or not?
Yeah.
Yes, because in the last reading, it was kind of similar to the difference between physical and geometrical objects, right? About
Yeah.
like one of them not being concerned about the nature of light, for example. Like it's just more like it's just like, where is it going? Is it bouncing here, and but not doesn't really care about the nature of the light, which is I think similar.
Was anybody thinking about Yayoi Kusama last week when we were reading about light and mirroring? Doesn't she have a piece in LA? A mirror room with like lights that go on infinitely.
Yeah, isn't it called the Infinity Room?
I think it is. So
Mhm.
that's representation raised to the nth power. Tracking lights geometrically for what appears to be infinity, but it's still Newtonian.
Yeah, that's a good example. Do people feel I don't want to go too much over time, but do people feel complete with this, the representationalism reflexivity component?
Yes.
I'm excited to talk about performativity actually, because I think it's like complex, especially how performance is used, or the assumption of performance being like fake or it's performative or but that assumes again this like there's an original, and then that kind of logic falls back on classical physics.
Yeah, I'm realizing I'm gonna need to reread like in preparation for next week. And like this stuff has kind of slipped out of my brain. I'm like reading these pages after we're going over them. My homework is to just reread these last few pages. I'm ready to talk about performative modes. Orion, what did you bring up about TFT1 again?
Something Barad said about other like ways you can engage with quantum stuff in a wrong way. I forget exactly. I'll look for it.
Oh, I know what. Yes, I mean they talk about it a little bit here. I feel like there's like, I feel like it's related to like, and like their kind of like emphasis on this is not an analogy, or like the use of quantum physics in an analogous kind of way, right? Yeah. Okay.
If you do go back and find that section, could you bump it back? Yeah, thanks.
We done? Yeah. Well, I guess, well, we'll see. TFT won't meet for another 2 weeks, I guess.
You on Labor Day?
Yes. Talk about performativity. It's perfect.
Yes.
And the vote will go, I'll propose what we discussed at the range on Monday, if anyone's welcome to, if everyone wants to come. Rev school has been pretty like sparse, so if you come, it'll probably be just us. But welcome to come to Rev school to be part of that vote too.
So you'll be sending out an email to TFT members about Rev School. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm gonna send before the end of the week, I'm gonna send the proposal, what we're gonna propose to TFT group, and also invite people from TFT to come to Rev School if they want to be part of the vote, and also kind of a last call for people who want to get in on this round. And then I'll also email Rev School about it too.
I'm down with Rev School. I wish I had been able to see you guys at Red Cat that time. You had an installation in there. Yeah, I wish I could have come by. I was in Costa Mesa when that happened.
Oh,
What did you do in that installation in Red Cat?
what did we do? I mean, we did what did we do? What is it that we do? I mean, we had Nikki, you were there, right? What did we do?
We did. Oh my God, we didn't do the big stomach thing. That was something else. Right?
Oh yeah, that was something else. Yeah. I mean,
Was it more time? I think it was more like time fuckery.
Oh my God, actually, there was a lot of shit that went. I mean, Red Cat was like a whole. I mean, Nikki knows. I mean, that was the beginning of something. But I can share with you later. I don't want to take everyone's time, but I will say that actually I don't want to say that there's a lot that actually happened. I think maybe that's more. I mean, I remember like Cedric and Christine made this whole calculation about labor. There was a whole huge discussion about labor and like how to pay people, and that became a thing. And then we also had Rev School meetings that we Zoomed, and then we just kind of set up the space for people to come and like talk about Rev School. And I think Clara was working on the archive and the Rev School website, so that was also happening there. There's like a cool little table that had a bunch of phones that Klotzy,
Right.
yeah, and then we filled them with Rev School like revolution stuff, and people can go and look at there. And we had like monitors playing some memes that Cedric made. Oh yeah, and they made some like tinfoil like Instagram type like background that you can like take pictures
Okay.
in front of.
Aww.
And then Sarah and Cedric did most of the installation. Sarah did a lot of it. So a lot of it was kind of like her vision.
It would have been a good space to do the 2-slit experiment in, huh?
Yeah.
It's not too late.
We can still do that. We still have a show opportunity available if we're still interested. So
Okay. I hope we can make something. I believe we can. I'm a believer. That's why I'm here.
High fives at making something.
oh my God, this is reminding me, Nikki, of your queer science thing.
Oh my gosh.
Like touching.
Yeah.
Okay, where are my
Oh,
hands?
did you hear about the AI thing with Zoom?
No.
So like there's new, I don't know if it's gone into effect yet, but Zoom is like going to be able to start using everyone's videos to like train AI. I was like thinking about that because it's like includes like art or something. They said it like includes art. And I was thinking about that and like how that would train AI.
Maybe that's someone we can do a community industry connection with, because according to Brant, our resident kind of computer scientist, that like it's really hard for AI to pull information from video because of multiple, there's visual, there's audio, there's like so I'm curious how Zoom will do that. It would be cool to be able to talk to one of their people, their engineers.
Mm-hmm.
For that info.
Keto. Okay. I'm just making note of this stuff before we go away.
Oh yeah. It should also the chat should save too. And I put the chat as well as the transcripts. Figured out how to make the transcript come every time because I would always forget. So now I set it so that there's always captions, so it always produce a transcript as well. And the chat. Oh wait, before we go, David, I'm curious. On the YouTube
Yeah.
live stream, it doesn't show the chat, does it?
Good point. I don't think so. It does show it. It does show captions, but not if I type into the chat test. I don't think so.
I wonder if there's a way to put. It doesn't, yeah,
Hmm.
also in the recordings, the chats don't, and it's like a separate document. So maybe that's something that just doesn't, is not
Mhm.
possible.
Is everybody comfortable with me copy and pasting the chat into the YouTube comments chat? Just to have that be a first iteration of.
Yeah,
Mhm. There's something so weird
Oh.
about, like what do they expect the chat to be used for if not like part of the thing, you know? I don't know.
No, totally. Like they don't consider it part of the content or whatever.
Right.
I want the chat to be, I mean, I don't mind sharing this. I think it's a question to be asked every time because sometimes we share links to, you know, editable confidential things that we don't want randos to crawl or scrape. In fact, the agendas would just be, yeah, what are the permissions on the agenda? Can anyone with a link?
I
mess
think it's set just to Rev School Google group and TFT Google group.
Okay.
I believe.
Then that's fine.
Yeah.
Talk about field.
Sweet. Okay, I'll see y'all on Labor Day.
Yeah.
I'll miss
That's
you
awesome.
guys.
I'll miss you.
I'll miss you all too.
Well, I guess we'll see each other Monday. We'll see each other Monday or next
Oh
Monday.
yeah. If you want to come to Rev School, it's this Monday. So yes.
Word.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having me back.
Bye, good to see you.
Thanks for
Nikki.
coming, Nikki.
Yeah. Good to meet you, Nikki.
Good to meet you. Bye.
Bye.